Hey everybody, this is Dr. Maples. So we're back with our last of our social theorists that we're going to talk about in our socialization lecture series. And this is actually someone that we've already talked about just a little bit. That's a person by the name of W.I. Thomas. We're going to talk about the Thomas Theorem today. Now, the Thomas Theorem, directly quoted from his work, is the idea that if people define situations as real, they are real in their consequences. Now, this idea seems kind of obtuse. It's something that we really need to break into some smaller pieces to try and understand. Let's think about socialization too in terms of this, because maybe we can understand how what he means has something to do with our creation of how we understand ourselves. Let's think about gender roles for a moment. Gender roles are the idea that based on your sex, you're expected to behave a certain way as an adult. Now, we're going to come to find out that these are something we call social constructs. They're something that at some point society just decided was real. They're not necessarily things that are there. In fact, we'll really break that into pieces as we talk about stratification later on in the semester. But for now, let's think about maybe Appalachian culture and how that culture has certain expectations about if you're born female, what you might be expected to do. One of the things that always alarms me and happens fairly frequently is I have female students who come from Appalachia and often come from rural areas and come to EKU, and at some point in the semester I get the email, Dr. Maples, I'm so sorry, but my family has said that I need to come back home and take care of my grandmother who's very sick, and so I'm going to have to leave college for a few semesters. Some cases they do come back eventually, often after a grandmother has passed away or something like that, or has been able to recover in one case. In other cases, they've never come back. It's strange because why would I get so many of these emails from female students from Appalachia? In fact, I've even started getting these emails from other folks that, their families are saying, hey, so-and-so needs to come back home because they're going to take care of so-and-so who's sick. Or even some of you maybe having experiences where you're taking care of someone now that we're dealing with currently a closure due to coronavirus while we're recording this. Others, you may simply have experiences where you're expected to take care of people. Why? Why is there an expectation, particularly of females, that they're going to take care of older family members when they're convalescing? Well, it goes back to what Thomas was saying. It's this idea that if we define an expectation of a gender role as being real, and that expectation here is that because they're female, they're somehow expected to take care of people, then the consequences of that are also real. The consequence is that their lives are interrupted. Moreover, there becomes this strong social expectation that because other people have assigned a role to you that you didn't necessarily ask for, they expect you wholeheartedly to fulfill it. And if we go back to culture too, we can think about cultural norms here, we can think about values, we can even think about sanctions. If a culture thinks that it's important for younger people to take care of an older generation and they don't do it, well, they might be sanctioned for not doing it. I could see a person being told, well, how could you dare turn your back on your family because you won't come home and take care of this person? You're the youngest daughter in the family. I even saw that in my own family when my father was getting sick. He's since passed away, but there was a strong expectation somehow that my sister was expected to kind of help in taking care. And strangely, the rest of our siblings were kind of just sort of let off the hook in a strange way. It was really odd. So when we think about this Thomas Theorem, what we're trying to get at is if we think all these things are real that we're told about who we are and what we're expected to do, if we believe those ideas are real, if we hold them as real, if other people hold them as real, even if we don't, then the consequences of that are real. The expectations that we'll do those things, it's there, it's going to happen. Even if we don't feel that these are part of our identity, sometimes people will think those are part of our identity and force those situations on us. The Thomas Theorem is something that can go really deep as you start to think about it. It starts to think particularly about the idea that the self really is something we call a social construct. It's something that is made. It's not necessarily something that happens for the most part. Now, granted, all of us have our individual interests, our individual characters, flaws, and all sorts of things. We have our certain predilections of things we do and don't like to do. For example, I'm a big fan of chicken wings. Other people may not be. But the whole thing is that so many parts of who we are, of who we're expected to be, are social constructs. There are things that we're socialized to believe are true. You're expected to behave this way because this is who you are. And if we believe that, then the consequences of it are also real, as Thomas would remind us. That's it for this mini lecture. Remember, this Thomas theorem is actually going to come back up when we start talking about stratification in a couple more lectures. They'll be in the third exam series. But in the meantime, if you have questions about this, if you have questions about any of our socialization lectures, reach out to me. I'm here to help. I also have open office hours that I'm available to chat with you, or I can set up another time if that doesn't work for your schedule. Take care of yourself. If you need anything, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next lecture. See ya.